हेलो दोस्तों। आई होप आप सभी अच्छे होंगे। चलिए विदाउट वेस्टिंग टाइम शुरू करते हैं आज की अपनी ये नई वीडियो।
Consider a situation where there are two ball needles separated by a small distance and the balls move periodically up and down in an identical fashion on the surface of water. These two sources produce a system of circularly propagating waves which superpose on each other during their travel. Let us mark all crests by red color and all troughs by green color. Consider a point P on the surface such that it is at equal distances from the sources S1 and S2. That is, S1P is equal to S2P. Since the distances are equal, the waves coming from S1 and S2 will take the same time to reach point P. Therefore, the waves will arrive in phase. The word in phase here means that the displacement of one wave at point is equal to the displacement of another wave at the same point. If the displacement produced by the source S1 at point P is given by y1 is equal to a sin omega t, since the wave from S2 travels same distance as wave from S1, the displacement is also given by y2 is equal to a sin omega t. The resultant displacement at P will be given by y is equal to y1 plus y2, which is equal to 2a sin omega t. Since the intensity of a wave is directly proportional to the square of its amplitude, if I0 is the intensity of the individual wave, then I0 is directly proportional to a square. Then the resultant intensity is given by I divided by I0 is equal to 4a square divided by a square. Therefore, I is equal to 4I0. That is, the resultant intensity is 4 times the individual intensity. This type of interference where there is an increase in intensity is called constructive interference. Now consider another point Q such that it is at a distance of 7 wavelengths from source S1 and at a distance of 5 wavelengths from S2. Then S1Q minus S2Q is equal to 2 lambda. This means that the waves coming from S1 will arrive exactly 2 cycles later than the waves from S2. If displacement produced by S1 is given by y1 is equal to a sin omega t, since the path difference of 2 lambda corresponds to a phase difference of 4 pi, the displacement produced by S2 will be given by y2 is equal to a sin omega t plus 4 pi, which is equal to a sin omega t. The two displacements are again in phase and the resultant displacement is equal to y is equal to 2a sin omega t and intensity I is equal to 4I0. This gives rise to constructive interference. Let us consider another point R such that it is at a distance of 7.25 wavelengths from S1 and 9.75 wavelengths from S2. Then S1R minus S2R is equal to minus 2.5 lambda. This means that waves from S1 will arrive exactly 2.5 cycles earlier than the waves from S2. If displacement produced by the source S1 is given by y1 is equal to a sin omega t, since the path difference of 2.5 lambda corresponds to a phase difference of 5 pi, the displacement produced by S2 will be given by y2 is equal to a sin omega t minus 5 pi. This is equal to minus a sin omega t. Therefore, the resultant displacement at point R is given by y is equal to y1 plus y2, which is equal to 0. Due to 0 amplitude, the intensity will also be equal to 0. Such type of interference where amplitude and intensity is 0 or minimum is called destructive interference. Overall, we can say that two coherent sources S1 and S2 vibrating in same phase will produce constructive interference at a point P whenever the path difference is integral multiple of lambda. that is S1p minus S2p is equal to n lambda, where n is an integer. Similarly, we can obtain destructive interference at point P whenever the path difference between them is S1p minus S2p is equal to n plus half into lambda, where n is an integer. Consider another case where the waves coming from coherent sources S1 and S2 are in phase but their amplitudes are different. Let the amplitude of waves from S1 be A1 and S2 be A2. Consider an arbitrary point A. If the displacement produced by source S1 at this point is y1 is equal to A1 sin omega t, and the displacement produced by the source S2 at this point is y2 is equal to A2 sin omega t plus phi. Here phi is the phase difference between the waves. The resultant displacement at that point due to these two waves is y is equal to y1 plus y2. This is equal to a1 sin omega t plus a2 sin omega t plus phi. After simplification, we get y is equal to a1 plus a2 cos phi into sin omega t plus a2 cos omega t into sin phi. Now let us take a1 plus a2 cos phi as r cos theta and a2 sin phi as r sin theta. If we substitute these values, we get y is equal to r cos theta sin omega t plus r sin theta cos omega t. Now take r common. Using this formula, this expression can be written as y is equal to r sin omega t plus theta. This equation represents the displacement of the resultant wave. Here r is called the resultant amplitude and theta is the phase angle between the first wave and the resultant wave at that point. Now let us find the resultant amplitude at that point. For that, square and add these two expressions. After simplification, we get r is equal to square root of a1 square plus a2 square plus 2a1 a2 into cos phi. Now, using this expression, we can find out the resultant amplitude. Similarly, using the formula tan theta is equal to a2 sin phi divided by a1 plus a2 cos phi, we can find out the phase angle theta of the resultant wave at that point. Now, using these equations, we can also derive general expressions for resultant displacement, amplitude, and phase angle at an arbitrary point P when amplitude of waves from S1 is equal to S2. That is, when A1 is equal to A2 is equal to A, the resultant amplitude equation can be written as r square is equal to 2a square plus 2a square cos phi. R square is equal to 2a square into 1 plus cos phi. We know that 1 plus cos phi is equal to 2 cos square phi by 2. Therefore, the above expression becomes r square is equal to 2a square into 2 cos square phi by 2. Therefore, r square becomes equal to 4a square cos square phi by 2. Now taking square root, finally we get r is equal to 2a cos phi by 2. The resultant displacement at point P is given by y is equal to r sin omega t plus theta. Substituting for r in this equation, we get y is equal to 2a cos phi by 2 into sin omega t plus theta. Now, let's find the resultant intensity at an arbitrary point P. Since intensity is directly proportional to square of amplitude, I naught is directly proportional to a square. Therefore, resultant intensity IR is directly proportional to 4a square cos square phi by 2. Let's divide these two equations. We get IR divided by I naught is equal to 4a square cos square phi by 2 divided by a square. After simplification, we get IR is equal to 4I naught cos square phi by 2. This is the general equation to find intensity at arbitrary point P when phase difference between the waves reaching the point P is phi. Due to all these interferences, we see high amplitudes at all these points where crest of one wave meets crest of another wave, and all these points where trough of one wave meets the trough of another wave. Similarly, we can see zero amplitude at all these points where crest of one wave meets trough of another wave. Interference of light waves and Young's double slit experiment. Now let us discuss about interference produced by light waves. This experiment was first carried out by British physicist called Thomas Young in the year 1801. In Young's experiment, a monochromatic light from an illuminated slit S is allowed to fall on two symmetrically placed parallel slits S1 and S2 that are very close to each other and are at equal distance from the source S. The two slits start producing cylindrical wavefronts. Since the wavefronts produced by slits S1 and S2 are generated from a single original wavefront, the waves from slit S1 and S2 will have same wavelength, frequency, and equal phase difference. Hence, they can be called as coherent sources. The wavefronts emerging from S1 and S2 will interfere in space and produce a pattern on the screen. The pattern will consist of bright and dark bands parallel to the slits. Such type of patterns are called interference pattern, and bands are called the interference fringes. Now, if two waves of light arriving simultaneously at a point in space are in phase, constructive interference takes place. The intensity will be maximum at that point, hence we get a bright fringe. Similarly, if two waves of light arriving simultaneously at a point are in opposite phase or out of phase, destructive interference will take place. The intensity will be minimum or zero at that point, hence we get a dark fringe. In this way, alternate bright and dark fringes are formed on the screen. Now, in this experiment, if we close one of the slits, the interference pattern disappears and we see only a plain light on the screen. This shows that two coherent sources are required to produce interference pattern. Now, let us find the distance between two consecutive bright or two consecutive dark fringes. It is also called as fringe width. Here, let the distance between the two slits S1 and S2 be small d and the distance of the slits from the screen be capital D. The central bright fringe is formed at the point O. Since the point O is at equal distances from S1 and S2, the path difference at this point S2O minus S1O is equal to 0. Now consider any arbitrary point P on the screen. For a bright fringe at point P, the path difference between the two waves reaching the point P must be equal to integral multiples of the wavelength, that is n lambda. Therefore, S2P minus S1P is equal to n lambda. Let's find S1P and S2P. From the triangle S2RP, S2P square is equal to S2R square plus RP square. We know that S2R is equal to D and RP is equal to X plus D by 2. Substituting these values in the equation, we get S2P square is equal to D square plus X plus D by 2 the whole square. Let's call this as equation number 1. Similarly, from the triangle S1QP, S1P square is equal to S1Q square plus PQ square. Here, PQ is equal to X minus D by 2 and S1Q is equal to capital D. Substituting these values, we get S1P square is equal to D square plus X minus D by 2 the whole square. Let's call this as equation number 2. Now, from equation 1 minus equation 2, we get S2P square minus S1P square is equal to D square plus X plus D by 2 the whole square minus D square plus X minus D by 2 the whole square. After simplifying this expression, we get S2P square minus S1P square is equal to 2xD. This expression can be written as S2P minus S1P into S2P plus S1P is equal to 2xD, or S2P minus S1P is equal to 2xD divided by S2P plus S1P. If the point P is very close to the center O and capital D is far greater than small d, then S1P will be almost equal to S2P, which is equal to capital D. Therefore, S2P plus S1P is equal to 2D. Replacing S2P minus S1P by n lambda and S2P plus S1P by 2D, we get n lambda is equal to 2xd divided by 2d. Therefore, x is equal to n lambda d divided by d. The distance of nth bright fringe from the center O of the screen is given by xn is equal to n lambda d by d. Similarly, the distance of n plus 1th bright fringe from the center of the screen is given by xn plus 1 is equal to n plus 1 into lambda d by d. The distance between any two consecutive bright fringes is called fringe width. It can be obtained by subtracting these two equations. Therefore, beta is equal to xn plus 1 minus xn, which is equal to n plus 1 into lambda d by d minus n lambda d by d. On simplification, we get fringe width beta is equal to lambda d divided by d. Similarly, if we calculate fringe width for dark fringes, we find that it is also equal to lambda d by d. Therefore, all bright fringes and dark fringes have equal width. If I1 and I2 are the intensities of individual sources from the slits S1 and S2, then the resultant intensity at any point on the screen is given by IR is equal to I1 plus I2 plus 2 into root of I1 I2 into cos phi, where phi is the phase difference between the two interfering waves. If I1 is equal to I2 is equal to I0, then the resultant intensity is given by IR is equal to 4I0 into cos square phi by 2. Now, for constructive interference, that is, at a bright fringe, the phase difference phi between the two interfering waves is equal to 2n pi. Therefore, resultant intensity IR becomes equal to 4I0. Similarly, for destructive interference at a dark fringe, phase difference phi is given by 2n plus 1 into pi. Therefore, resultant intensity at a dark fringe becomes equal to 0. Note that all the expressions derived previously in the ball experiment are also valid for interference of light. The intensity variation curve in Young's double slit experiment is like this. Note that all bright fringes are of equal intensity given by 4I0 and all dark fringes intensity is found to be 0. This phenomenon of bending of wave around the corners of an obstacle or aperture is called diffraction of a wave. The process of diffraction can be explained using Huygens principle. When the waves from the music player reach the opening, according to Huygens principle, every point on the wavefront will act as source of secondary wavelets. The waves coming from these sources will again propagate in all directions. Some of these waves reach your ears, making the music player audible. Now, the extent of bending depends upon the value of wavelength compared to the size of the opening. If the opening is much larger than the wavelength, then the bending will be almost unnoticeable. But if the opening is smaller than or almost equal to the wavelength of the wave, then the bending will be high. Now consider another situation where we have a light source instead of a music system. As we can see here, the light waves have illuminated only this part of the room. This means that the light waves did not bend to illuminate this region. This type of regions where a particular wave is unable to penetrate is called shadow region. Now, the question is, why did the light waves bend so least and sound waves bend so high? The answer to this lies in the property of wave, which states that the extent of bending of any wave depends upon the value of its wavelength lambda compared to the size of the opening d. The bending of a wave or diffraction will be high only if the size of the opening d is either comparable to lambda or is smaller than lambda. Since the audible sound waves have large wavelength in the order of 1 centimeter to 10 meter, the sound waves undergo high diffraction. However, the wavelengths of visible light is extremely small compared to the size of the opening D. Due to this, the diffraction is almost negligible. Now, if we reduce the size of the opening to few micrometers, which is almost comparable to wavelength of the light waves, then the light waves undergo diffraction like sound waves. Fraunhofer's diffraction at a single slit. When a monochromatic light wave is allowed to fall on a tiny opening with size in few micrometers, the light undergoes diffraction. Now, if we place a screen in front of the opening, alternate dark and bright pattern is formed on the screen. Now let us discuss about the diffraction pattern formed by a monochromatic light source. Consider a plane wavefront XY of wavelength lambda incident on a narrow slit AB of width small a. According to Huygens principle, every point on the wavefront at the slit will become source of secondary wavelets. Waves of same amplitude are emitted from these points in all directions. With the help of a convex lens L, all these waves are focused onto a screen placed at a distance d from the slit. A diffraction pattern is obtained on the screen, and the pattern consists of alternate bright and dark bands of decreasing intensity on either side of the central maximum. Now, let's calculate what causes these bands. Now consider a point O on the screen which lies on the perpendicular bisector of the slit. The wavelets that fall on the lens L1 parallel to CO converge on point O, since the waves from these points travel equal distances to reach point O. The phase difference between them will be zero. The waves superpose with each other and produce maximum intensity at O. This point O becomes the location of central bright fringe. Now consider an arbitrary point P on the screen. All the secondary waves from the slit AB make an angle theta with CO and reach the point P. The intensity at point P depends on the path difference between the waves. Now let us draw a perpendicular AN from the point A to this ray diffracted from B. Now the distance BN gives the path difference between the secondary waves from A and B reaching point P. From triangle ANB, BN by AB is equal to sin theta and BN is equal to AB sin theta. Since AB is the slit width which is equal to A and BN is the path difference, therefore the path difference is equal to A sin theta. Now case 1. If the path difference between the waves is equal to lambda. To analyze this condition, let us divide the whole wavefront AB into two equal halves, AC and CB. Since the path difference between the secondary waves from A and B is lambda, the path difference between the secondary waves from A and C reaching P will be lambda by 2. Due to path difference of lambda by 2, these two waves will interfere destructively at point P. Overall, point P will be of minimum intensity and it is called first secondary minimum, and it is formed on either side of the central maximum. The angle of diffraction theta, for which the first secondary minimum is produced, is given by the relation A sin theta is equal to lambda, or sin theta is equal to lambda divided by A. Since theta is very small, sin theta is approximately taken as theta. Therefore, theta is equal to lambda by A. If the path difference between secondary waves from A and B is equal to 2 lambda, in this case, the wavefront AB can be divided into 4 equal parts. Now, every point in a part will have a point in its adjacent part, for which the path difference is 2 lambda by 4 or lambda by 2. Hence, all these waves will interfere destructively. In general, the angle of diffraction theta n for nth secondary minimum is given by A sin theta n is equal to n lambda, where n is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on. Now let us find the positions of secondary maxima. If the path difference between the secondary waves A and B is equal to 3 lambda by 2, in this case, the wavefront AB can be divided into 3 equal parts. The path difference between the corresponding points of the first two parts will be equal to lambda by 2. Therefore, they will interfere destructively. However, the wavelets from the third unused part will interfere constructively at point P to produce a weak first secondary maxima. Similarly, second secondary maxima will be formed on the screen where the path difference is equal to 5 lambda by 2. In general, the angle of diffraction for which the secondary maximum are produced is given by a sin theta n is equal to 2n plus 1 lambda by 2, where n is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, so on. Now, let us look at the width of the central maximum. The linear width of the central maximum is the distance between the first secondary minimum on either sides of the central maximum at O. Linear width of central maximum is given by W is equal to 2 lambda d divided by A. Here d is the distance of the screen from the slit, A is the width of the narrow slit, and lambda is the wavelength of the light. Angular width of the central maximum is given by omega is equal to 2 lambda divided by A, and the units of angular width is radian. Figure here shows the intensity of diffraction pattern for single slit for various angular positions sin theta. The pattern has central bright maximum formed at point O. The angular positions of various secondary minima are sin theta is equal to plus lambda by A minus lambda by A plus 2 lambda by A minus 2 lambda by A, and so on. Similarly, the angular positions of various secondary maxima are sin theta is equal to 3 lambda by 2A minus 3 lambda by 2A plus 5 lambda by 2A minus 5 lambda by 2A, and so on. The intensity of central maximum is highest and the intensities of secondary maxima goes on decreasing as the distance from the center O goes on increasing.